And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the 2-Point Conversion NFL DFS podcast. We have real football on our hands as we have NFL Week 1 DraftKings action to break down. And in order to do so, I'll be joined by my co-host, as always. You can find him on Twitter at Pater_DFS. James, how we doing, man?
I'm doing pretty okay. I'm busy today. Really, really busy, but you know how the season goes, so.
Yep, a lot going on all over the place, plus real life always finds a way to tinker with the fun that we always have. So we're going to go, for new listeners, we're going to go game by game, cover Thursday through Monday, break it all down with the plays we think you need to focus on, and go from there. So without further ado, let's kick it off with the first game, the Thursday night game, Atlanta at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is about a -2.5 to 3-point favorite, totals around 45. James, will kick it off with this one. What are you seeing in this one that gets your attention?
You know me, I usually prefer to fade Thursday night game, but I really love Julio in this spot. We saw him kind of see an uptick so far in his red zone usage with this new offensive scheme. Shanahan didn't like to use him in the red zone. He preferred to use Freeman and Coleman. So what we're hearing out of camp is that Julio's getting a lot more action in the red zone. So that's always kind of been the knock on him as an elite wide receiver, is not really being able to get into the end zone and find those touchdowns. So I really like Julio Jones in this spot. I mentioned the running backs. I'm not sure how that's going to work out this year. You know, like with Shanahan gone, I'm not sure that we're going to see them be able to split so much of that usage. I don't know who's going to be the lead guy. It should be Freeman, but I think that it's kind of anyone's guess right now, and I'm not sure that I want to play around at that spot. And then over on the Philadelphia side, we have Alshon Jeffrey missing this first week. So Nelson Agholor is going to be the man. And this Atlanta defense can be good. They have some good pieces. Their cornerbacks can be strong, but the cornerbacks can also make a lot of mistakes because they play really, really aggressively. So we saw Agholor do really, really well last year with no Alshon Jeffrey. And even with Alshon Jeffrey, he was still not bad at all. So I really, really like Nelson Agholor, but I don't know if I trust Foles to actually be good. So I kind of want to hear your thoughts on that.
That's the million-dollar question. I don't trust Foles to be good. It's nothing against him. He obviously did very well in his 5 starts last year. I was looking at those starts. He had over 30 points in 3 of those 5, but one of his worst games was that playoff game against Atlanta. And yes, this isn't a playoff game, and there might be some rust or there might be this, that, or the other, sure. But Foles didn't look good in the preseason. And not saying he can't do it, but like you said with that Atlanta defense, they're better than people give them credit for. They're kind of about average, sometimes a little worse than average, but that could also be the division they played, and they played some nice offensive teams in that division at time to time. So Foles isn't one I'm looking at, which is weird considering I agree 100% that Nelson Agholor at $5,900 is just a really solid play at the number 1. Even during the regular season, I think he's going to be great. But being the man they're going to showcase tonight, I think he's going to be in for a really, really fun role there. If you want to go bargain basement hunting because you're playing the $10 for $1 million on DraftKings, the showdown deal on Thursday night, guys like Mike Wallace, since Jeffrey's out, could be interesting in that matchup. Zach Ertz is going to eat pretty much whenever he wants to eat if they want to give it to him. And then on the Atlanta side, I completely agree. Julio Jones, I think, is going to have a monster season. Devontae Freeman's the guy for now, but I'm with you. As the season goes on, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot closer, like a 60-40, or there's games where Coleman takes over. So it's going to be really interesting to monitor that as the season plays on. So I think those are kind of the plays I'm looking at. Like you said, when you started out, we talked about it a ton last year. One of the best parts about playing the whole 16-game slate is you fade Thursday night because everyone wants to play Thursday night. That's why they play the full week slate, and you can get definite ownership advantages elsewhere. So if you just want to sit this one out, it's fine. The one play that I didn't mention that I think could be really interesting, maybe you got an opinion on this, is that Philadelphia defense at $3,000. There's a couple sub-3s that I like a lot, and we'll get to those, and we talked about some last week. But I think that Philadelphia defense, it plays much, much better at home. And obviously there's going to be change in all these teams for the first few weeks that we're not going to be expecting. But a lot of those pieces are back in Philadelphia. So at $3K, I think that could be really interesting in that matchup.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. It's hard for me because I really do believe in this Atlanta team this year from an offensive standpoint. I think
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I just think that they're put together really well. But Philadelphia is really, really good at home, and I always like taking home defenses. I can see doing it. I think that I like the Philadelphia defense about as much as I like the Atlanta offense. So if I was going to play Thursday all the way through that full 16 games, then they could be on my radar. But I think that I like some of their defenses a little bit more than one in a pick'em game against an offense that I think is going to be good this year.
Yeah, it's definitely one we can avoid. And as we go through the slate, there's a handful of games. In reality, we'll go over them, but you can just cross them off if you want to.
Yeah.
So let's get into Sunday. We got Buffalo at Baltimore. Baltimore 7-point home favorite. Totals around 41 in this one. Seems pretty one-sided from everywhere you look. What are you thinking on this one, James?
Well, all the offensive pieces in this game should suck. Basically, right? I mean, and we're looking at what will probably be the chalkiest defense on the board this week with the Ravens. Their defense is 3,800, and that's really expensive for defense. I know that I won't be paying for it, but we did see Nathan Peterman literally have the worst start in NFL history last year, which was hilarious, and I made a lot of jokes about it for a while. But I don't know. I don't think that I can pay 3,800. I like the Ravens at home. I like their defense at home. I like Jimmy Smith. I like all the pieces of it. It's just I think that 3,800 for defense is just too much to spend, and I think too many people will do it. Looking at the offensive pieces, Joe Flacco is 4,900. Like, I think Joe Flacco is terrible forever. Nathan Peterman is 4,200. Like, at that price, if we didn't have all this running back value, if you were on like Team Jam 'em in and you were trying to get to like, I don't know, DJ and Alvin Kamara or something like that, I wouldn't hate Nathan Peterman, because what exactly does he have to do at 4,200 to meet value? He has to throw 2 touchdowns and he's already there. Like, that's easy, but there's literally no reason to do it this week. There probably won't be a reason to do it next week because DK's probably pricing out of the room is slow as shit. LaShawn McCoy at 6K is intriguing because you know they're just going to have to feed him. Like, they don't have really anything else unless you think Nathan Peterman's going to be able to exploit this defense, which I don't think that he will. So at 6K, LaShawn McCoy is really interesting. Alex Collins at 5,600 on the other side is probably just as interesting. I know that a lot of people are talking about him this week, but he's going to get lost in the shuffle, you know? We have these price points below him, $4,500 and less for running backs, and then we have Christian McCaffrey, $6,400 and more. So Alex Collins in this middle spot, he could be a really, really nice GPP pivot if you believe that the Buffalo defense is going to be bad against running backs this year. I probably won't touch any wide receivers. I probably won't touch any tight ends. So I think my only interest here is LaShawn McCoy and Alex Collins.
That's probably the best way to look at it. Like you said, if we had to play Team Jam It In, I could give Joe Flacco a look. We talked about him once in a while last year as an option. But McCoy is going to be a play pretty much every week that the NFL doesn't suspend him, because Buffalo has nowhere to go.
Yeah,
and especially with Peterman at quarterback. So no matter what, no matter how the game flow is, either they're going to hand it to McCoy or they're going to dump it off to McCoy. He's going to get 20-plus touches a week, and that's one of the best things you can look at when you're building your lineup. So Shady always comes into play. And you remember very well, towards the end of last year, he was $8,500 in that realm, week in and week out. So 6K is quite a discount. Alex Collins, I love. It was crazy because before pricing came out and you said all those discounts, everyone thought Alex Collins and the Ravens D would be that kind of running back defensive correlation we'd be looking at. And now when you look at all the discounts we're going to get to, you're right. Alex Collins might actually kind of get missed in this situation, which really could make things interesting and kind of open him up, because you can run it down the Bills' throat. They have a lot of the returning defense coming back, but a lot of what they did really, really well was stop the pass. They'd allow you to run all day long. So Alex Collins could really just chug it along for like 20 and 85 and maybe sneak in the end zone. And at 5,600, not bad. So you can work with that. If for some reason you had to take a cheap receiver, which you shouldn't, John Brown at 3,700 is a guy you could look at as a punt, but really, like you said, try to stay out of the receiving situation. Stick to the backs, the Ravens D. The one thing that's interesting, and I'm with you, we usually don't pay up for too much defense on here. Adam Leviton of DraftKings did a research on like the past X amount of Million Maker winners, and majority of them paid up for defenses, which is very interesting to find out. So it goes to that whole correlation of most people don't pay up. If it fits in this week with all the cheapies, go for it. But the problem is everyone's going to use the cheapies, so everyone might be on the expensive defense.
Yeah, and one other thing that I did want to mention about Alex Collins, as much as I like him and as much as I think that he's like #good, there's so much depth at running back on that team. And we know that they like to use running backs in different spots. They don't usually bell cow. So, I mean, at 5,600, you have Alex Collins, but then Javoris Allen, who is perfectly capable on his own, could take some of the work. And then Kenneth Dixon is still there. There's just a lot going on in that backfield, which makes me feel a little bit better about the 100% of CMC that I'm going to have. So,
yes, we're definitely going to get the CMC game popping here in a bit. Let's go to New York between Jacksonville and the New York Giants. Giants 3-point home dogs, totals around 43 and a half on this one. Everyone's going to rave about the Jacksonville defense there at $3,700 because they're bringing everybody back pretty much, and they're going to be great. But Eli's got all the toys. Saquon Barkley at 67, yeah, slightly pricey. No one's going to own him against Jacksonville's defense, and Jacksonville's D gave up the run pretty darn good last year. They stopped the pass well, very well, the best in football, but you could run on them all day long. So Saquon's a very interesting GPP play at that price point, in my opinion. Other than that, I really don't want anything to do with the Giants. I will believe the Jags are for real until they prove me otherwise. And as long as Sling Blade's slinging it around in the backfield, I'll just let the Jags defense have fun. On the other side, though, the Giants defense was to be a little improved this year, but still pretty shaky. Leonard Fournette at $7,100. You could have a field day with him. I'd rather, there's a couple other guys I'm looking at this week, but Fournette should be in for a very, very nice game. You're going to see Keelan Cole. He's one of the massive values at $3,800. A DraftKings algorithm did well on this week. So Keelan Cole will be chalk, and he's going to be one of the many at $3,800. ASJ at 32 could be interesting because the Giants couldn't cover a tight end last year. That's something that can change year to year very easily. So that could be a narrative, but pretty much the running backs in this game, the Jags defense, chalk with Keelan Cole is where I'd be looking. What about you?
Yeah, well, I have probably as little confidence in the quarterback play in this game as anybody in the world. I think Eli Manning sucks. I think Blake Bortles sucks. I know that he got hot towards the end of last year, and maybe he was figuring it out. Maybe something finally clicked for him, and he's going to be like a serviceable QB in the NFL. And if that happens, then so be it. I'll drop that bias. But until I see it this year, we've seen quarterbacks have good play half of the season and then be absolutely god awful the next year. So I'm thinking Blake Bortles probably regresses back to his normal terrible self. So I don't really want to bank on him being good and serviceable. I do like Leonard Fournette at 7,100. I'm not sure that I can go there just because of the other plays that I like more at the running back position. If I was going to MME, which I don't think I'm going to this week, I might have 10-15% of him and try to cut down a little bit of my CMC exposure and pivot away. But I don't really like running backs on the road as is. So against the New York Giants defense that should be a little bit improved, at the very least a little bit improved, I think that I'll probably look elsewhere. You mentioned Keelan Cole, who I'm totally fine with at 3,800. I think that in cash games, he's a really, really good play. I also actually really like Dante Moncrief at 4K. Moncrief we have seen be a really, really good possession receiver in the past, and I think that he's probably going to have those curls and those out routes. I think Keelan Cole is going to be more deeper down the field. So Dante Moncrief at 4K might be able to haul in a touchdown or two if him and Blake Bortles kind of develop that rapport, but we'll see how it goes. I don't think that I'm going to roll the dice on that this week since there's other wide receivers that I think I like more, and I don't need the value at wide receiver. If I needed it, then I would probably be on Moncrief this week, but I don't.
I like that call with Moncrief. That's a good one. It's just like you said, it's a shame it's not like week 6 where pricing's pretty close to what it should be, and boom, we powered in. There's, again, I keep hinting at it. We'll get to them. There's 2 defenses below 3K I really, really like. But just talking about it, the way Bortles can play, the Giants at 26, do they tickle your fancy at all?
Yeah, they do. They do. Especially because, nobody's going to be on them at all. Exactly. And at 2,600, the issue that I'm finding when I'm trying to kind of, build a dummy lineup is that the way that I want to build, it's kind of really mid-tier values all the way across the board, and I end up with a little bit over 6K for my flex spot, and that's paying down at defense. And I just have too much at my flex to really feel comfortable with where I'm going with it. So I might have to pay up a defense, but I really would like to pay down. And the Giants at home against Blake Bortles, who has been terrible for like the entirety of his career besides 6 games. I really like that. I think that's intriguing, especially because like people love to talk about how bad Eli Apple is, but he has a good pedigree. He was good coming out of college, and things have gone really, really wrong for him. And I'm not sure that it can continue. I think he's probably got a little bit of normalization coming. So I think this Giants defense will turn out better than people want it to be.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're going to definitely be much better than last year. Let's talk about Tampa Bay at the New Orleans Saints. Saints 9.5-point home favorites. Totals around 49.5. This is a very, very popular one-sided affair at the moment. Where are you looking at this one, James?
So everyone will be on Alvin Kamara this week. I think at 8,500, he's going to be probably the highest owned high-priced player, in my opinion. And it just all comes from Mark Ingram being suspended. And like, I understand the reasons for it, but I'm going to be as underweight as I possibly can be on Alvin Kamara. I think that's going to be a place where I take a stand. It's just, I got to bank on the regression happening. Like Frisco Josh kind of did a lot of research over the offseason that showed that Alvin Kamara, when he gets what he should, when he gets like the volume that he should, he's not special. He was really special in that low volume, but it's not something that can be maintained. Even like the best of the best, like Lev Bell last year was nowhere near that efficient. So when you look at that, he should come down quite a bit in efficiency. Now, will the volume kind of mitigate the effects of that efficiency drop? Probably. But for 8,500, like I'd rather take CMC, who I think is going to have the same workload. And they just signed Mike Gillislee too, who we know can handle his own as well. And we know can fill that Mark Ingram role really, really well for the Saints. So I don't think that 8,500 is worth it. He's going to have to go absolutely nuclear like he did for the entire second half of last season. And I'm just going to kind of bank against it. Like I'm going to hope that he gets 10, 15 fantasy points and kind of crashes and burns as like 40% chalk. But other than that, I do like the wide receivers in this game. Tampa Bay's defense was good towards the end of last year, but it wasn't necessarily because their cornerbacks were good. It was because their linebackers were good. And their front seven turned out to be like really, really strong, and they were causing pressure. Their cornerbacks are young, and they make a lot of mistakes. I exploited Amari Cooper against them last year when he had that like 180 yards and 2 touchdowns because their cornerbacks just make dumb mistakes. So I really like Michael Thomas. I really like the wide receiver options on that side. I think Ted Ginn is worth a shot. Cam Meredith is interesting. And then overall, like the wide receivers for this game are juicy. Mike Evans, Deshaun Jackson, Chris Godwin. Like I really like the wide receivers in this game, but I don't want to touch any of the running backs.
Yeah, I'm with you there. You mentioned CMC. He's $2,100 cheaper than Alvin Kamara, so I will bite the heck out of that chalk. There is another guy around Kamara's price that I want to be all in on because I think he'll go super low owned, but we'll get to him later. So I'll be staying off Kamara. He could have a huge game, but you hit on a lot of the stuff I saw over the offseason was he was doing so much with such a small workload, which is not sustainable. Just not sustainable. That's like telling me Will Fuller is going to score a touchdown every time he catches a pass. Yeah. It's just not sustainable how those two guys put up their numbers. They're good players, but no. I think, if you're going to stack, you could put a Breeze with a Michael Thomas or a Ted Ginn. Those could be very, very interesting. I like Chris Godwin on the Tampa Bay side, like you mentioned. Another receiver, this will kind of have to wait till Sunday morning to see how it all lines out. The depth charts are out, but there's Cam Meredith at 44, who I like a lot, and then Traquan Smith had a huge preseason, and he's 3,500. If he somehow sneaks in, because even in some of those preseason games, he played with the ones, and it could have been two injuries or whatever. That's what I'm saying. Kind of wait and see how that plays out. But if somehow he sneaks in like as wide receiver 3 at 3,500, could be sneaky in a game that should have a lot of offense like this. But if you want to kind of go away from the receivers and be different in this game, I like Ben Watson at 3,100 against Tampa Bay. I think he could be a cheaper tight end that you can definitely do some damage with in this one. Let's go to New England. Houston at New England. New England 6-point favorites. Total is 51. Everyone is in love with this game. I'll tell you right now, obviously Tom Brady's in play at 72 if you want to go there. I do think the Houston defense is going to be better this year. A healthy J.J. Watt helps, obviously. The Honey Badgers in town. The secondary's going to be good, but, still Tom Brady. with a depleted receiving core. So that's where it gets interesting. Chris Hogan at 61 is outstanding in this game because the mouths to be fed are few and far between. I think you can get a big time discount with Phil Dorsett at $3,700. I think that is tremendous as part of the ones there. James White at 4,000 is the guy I'm looking at over Rex Burkhead only because everyone is on Rex Burkhead. So I'll pivot to James White in a PPR format like DraftKings. I think at $4,000 he can be tremendous. So I like both of those options there. And then Gronk at 69 for the fact they only have 3 wide receivers on the depth chart right now, and Gronk out there, he, as long as he stays healthy, is going to have a gigantic game, like literally huge Gronk style game at $1,600. Paying up for tight end this week should be done if you can do it, which you can do if you really want to. So I absolutely love the New England side. Everybody will. So I'm not going to be super heavy on it, but I think Gronk is a must if you want to go there. I could be wrong. On the Houston side, you could go to the passing game there. You said it last week. We know with Belichick, his goal is to take away your number one weapon, but he will take away Hopkins. That is very simple. So if you want to try Will Fuller with Deshaun Watson, go for it. What I'm looking to do, if you do stack Tampa Bay, come back with Lamar Miller. He's going to be the 3-down back at $5,200. They are going to want to slow things down and run the rock. You can run on New England, and at worst, they're going to pass it to him probably 3, 4, 5 times in the game. So the touches will be there for Lamar at $5,200. If you're going to do kind of a game stack and want to bring it back with someone, that's where I would go with it. But it's an interesting game. Should be really fun. But DFS-wise, there's a lot of options out there, but go Gronk. What about you, James?
No, I think you hit on everything. The one thing that you did not hit on was Patriots defense at 2,400.
Yes, that could be sneaky.
2,400, man. Like, the Patriots defense is good because they get out to a lead on these teams and then they like force mistakes. And that's like, whenever you look at good defenses, they're almost always correlated with a good offense. And you don't really have to be good on defense. You just have to like make it so the other team is panicking and you have to get them to throw the ball deep for no reason and throw it to your cornerbacks and cause an interception or like cause a mistake or cause a fumble or whatever. So I really like the Patriots defense at home at 2,400. I think that week one, like the first week of the season and coming out of the bye week is when the Patriots play their best because Belichick is a genius. I know they don't have their coordinators, but man, I just really, really like Patriots defense 2,400. That's about the only thing I have to add here. I also love Lamar Miller at 52. I think that he's a really, really nice play. 3-down back, like no competition for his carries. And we know that DeAndre Hopkins is going to have a lot of troubles in this game. I don't believe that Watson's going to keep up his efficiency that he had last year. So I really like Lamar Miller to bounce back and have a better year. So yeah, just Patriots defense, Lamar Miller for me, and Gronk, obviously. I think that like there's pretty much 4 players that you could just lock in if you were MMEing, and I think you'd be fine. And Gronk is one of them.
Yeah,
so I agree with you.
Yeah, it'll come down to what we said last week. You can take some of the chalk, just be different elsewhere. There's certain guys this week, just play them. Just go with it. Let's talk about another one. San Francisco at Minnesota. Minnesota's a 6-point home favorite. Totals 46. Kirk Cousins' debut at home. What do you have in this one?
Man, I really want to play Breda.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm going to be able to because I like too many other running backs, but I really want to play Breda. And especially with the James Conner news, like it was going to be Breda being chalk. Breda and Alf Morris were probably going to be like 20-something% each, but now that Connor's in the picture, those guys' percentages are just going to drop into the ground. So I really like Breda against this Minnesota team. And people keep telling me that, oh, well, what about the Minnesota defense? What about the Minnesota defense? They only allow so many points at home. Yeah, they allow so many points at home because their secondary is just incredible. And they get all this pressure on the quarterback. But pressure on the quarterback leads to drop downs. And it leads to running back catches. And the thing that Breda does best out of the backfield is catch. Like, he's a good runner, but he's a great receiver. So we know that Alfred Morris is not going to be out there on receiving downs. So I really like Breda to get like 7 to 10 targets in this game and maybe run 10 to 12 times. Like, I just think he has a really, really nice touch floor here, but I don't think I'm going to find a way to use him at 4,600 unless I go like him and James Conner together and then just pay up at everything else. But I don't know if I like that format. I haven't played around with it enough. Other than that, I really like Diggs. I really like Kyle Rudolph. Like Kyle Rudolph's going to be popular this year with Kirk Cousins, since we know that he has that rapport with his tight ends. And then speaking of Kirk Cousins, at 6,500 against San Francisco, I don't hate that. He's a good quarterback. He slings it. We know that he can be a really high upside guy. And he'll probably have the lead for most of this game. So he's not going to be making those stupid mistakes in the red zone like we saw him make with the Redskins. So I like the Minnesota offense, but I also like Breda a lot. And this is a hard spot for me.
Yeah, I think Breda's in a really good spot there. Like you mentioned, the passing game, dumping it off. We saw Jimmy G dump it off to Hyde and company quite a bit last year in his time there. So I don't hate that at all at 46. It's a great price point in this matchup. I think Cousins is really good. I love Diggs and Thielen. I prefer Diggs over Thielen this week. And I think Rudolph's a great play. You hit on all those. Dalvin Cook, Latavius Murray is very interesting. Cook at 62, Murray at 48. We already talked about CMC at 64. I'll be going there like you will. So I think I'm going to stay off Cook. But Murray at 48 is going to be very, very overlooked. Even, when Cook was out and it was Murray and McKinnon, it was almost 50-50, 60-40 most weeks. And Murray does a lot of the catching work. So he could be like their Chris Thompson to Kirk Cousins. And that could be interesting at $4,800. Maybe wait and see a week or two. But could be interesting. The play I like, if you have money to spend on defense and you don't want to go 38 to the Ravens, Minnesota is $3,400. And this is a defense that plays amazing at home in that dome. They built that dome to stay loud for a reason. And Evan Silva even tweeted it out the other day. But I took a picture to remind myself. The last 10 point totals by the Vikings at home, 10, 19, 17, 14, 10, 16, 7, 7, 10, and then 24 in that playoff game that kind of went haywire for them. But prior to that one, they are lights out on defense at home. Jimmy G, people remember, only had that one big throwing game at Jacksonville. Other than that, it was a bunch of up and down field goal type games. I think Minnesota's D at 34 could be a very overlooked one at that high price point if you're paying up a defense. Other than that, pretty much everything you said, I agree with. I think this Minnesota offense, we're going to get into some other ones that are going to be a little more favorable. Could be a sneaky one if you do MME. Let's go to Miami, Tennessee at Miami. Miami 1.5 point home dogs. The total is 45. This one, it just reeks of probably pass on this game is what it really comes down to if you want to. But running back situation, Kenyon Drake at 59 is in a really great spot. That's obvious. If you want to go there, Kenny Stills and Danny Amendola, if you need to go to receivers, that's called trusting Tannehill. Probably go elsewhere because there's tons of value on the slate. The running backs with Tennessee got Henry at 54 and D. Lew at 49. I got no problem there. There's still other running backs we mentioned. You just mentioned Breida at 48 and some other ones. So Delaney Walker at 49 is probably the best bet out of anything I've mentioned. If you need a tight end that's kind of mid-price range, Delaney Walker against the Dolphins is probably a good place to go. Other than that, I honestly would just skip this game completely and move on. Anything you like about this game?
I'm going to say that I just want to skip this game completely, but I have a feeling this game is going to piss me off somehow.
Well, yeah, because both these teams we've seen do stupid stuff. It's just
I have a feeling that something is going to happen in this game that's going to ruin my week, and I'm going to be so mad about it for like 4 weeks. I just got a feeling like Mariota's going to have one of his like 5 touchdown games, or Delaney Walker is going to have like 120 yards and 3 touchdowns, or something, like the Miami defense is going to put up like 36 fantasy points. Like there's going to be something in this game that I'm going to miss, but I can't figure out what it's going to be. And I need to think about it for a while longer. There's nothing like super appealing. Like Kenyon Drake's okay, but the running back situations on both sides are like so up in the air, and we don't know who's going to actually have the lion's share. And then wide receivers, like everybody loves Kenny Stills, and it's just like stroking his ego, but I don't really like it that much. And then the defenses both should suck, but who knows? Like, yeah, this game's it's going to make me mad. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, something valuable will come out of this game. If you can figure it out, more power to you.
Yeah.
Cincinnati at Indianapolis. This one actually can kind of be fun. Indianapolis 3-point home favorites, totals 47.5. This has sneaky appeal in certain spots. It's an ugly one, but not as ugly as the last game we just talked about. What do you like here, James?
Bro, Andrew Luck is 6,100. And Andrew Luck has like more top 5 QB finishes in DFS than anybody else in the last like when he's healthy for a season, he's like always a top 5 QB. So at 6,100, I think that he's really, really interesting. I think you could pair him with T.Y. Hilton. Like you might be able to game stack this game. You might be able to do like Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton, AJ Green, and then I don't know, like Jack Doyle. I think that you could do something like that in this game. It doesn't look nice on the top, but if you think that Andrew Luck is healed up and you want to take a shot on him, I love the price of 6,100. Like that's super affordable. There's a lot of upside there. I don't like T.Y. Hilton at 6,800 at home against Cincinnati, who lost Adam Jones. Like that's nice. That's a nice spot. I like that a lot. So I think there's a lot of appeal in this game. Joe Mixon at 6,100 isn't going to do it for me because I don't know what his realistic workload expectation is. And I think that Cincinnati on the road is going to be kind of a train wreck always. So I don't know. I don't really like the running backs, but I do like the wide receivers in this game. I like AJ Green and T.Y. Hilton a lot.
Yeah, I think this one, when I was taking my notes on this game, I thought it was way more appealing than it sounds when you just say Colts facing the Bengals. It's way better than it looks. Luck at 61. He kind of had one of those preseasons that made you scratch your head because you look at his down the field passes. He was averaging like 7 yards an attempt, which is not ideal by any means. But hey, that works right into slants to T.Y. Hilton. That works to little dump offs to Jack Doyle. Works perfectly right there. Jordan Wilkins is a punt running back starting at $3,700. He's another potential chalk, again, before James Conner's news, because everyone's going to flock to Conner because he's facing the Browns, which, FYI, kind of a decent defense, actually. Jordan Wilkins at 37 could be very, very interesting, given there's still going to be Hines and Christian Michael and these other guys there, but he's got the starting role at 37. I do love T.Y. and Doyle, like you said. AJ Green is a monster, as we well know. Other than that, yeah, I could see arguments for Joe Mixon. I agree with everything you said. I can also see everyone's argument of how well he played in the preseason, and they're going to try to incorporate him as a number one. I see all that as well. If I'm going to take a running back, I'll save the money and go to Wilkins. I think you play with the passing game on this one. You have fun. If you're playing only one guy in this game, I'm playing Jack Doyle just because you're saving money at 3,600. But ideally, we want Gronk at the tight end, James. So that's where we're going this week.
Yeah.
Now to the guy we've been talking about, James Conner. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns. Browns 4-point home dogs. Total is 46. We'll just cross him off now. James Conner is starting because Lev Bell apparently doesn't like money. But I also agree with what he's doing. I've been tweeting it for a long time that if he wants to stay away and save his body and play for a team that cares about him, sure. Doesn't look good, but sure, whatever. Your decision. But James Conner at 45, you got to love. Antonio Brown, as long as he has two legs and can move, is going to be a play for both of us pretty much every week. I just know that from what we've talked about in years past. 8,600 for him. Juju played a ton out of the slot in the preseason, a ton. I believe it was Grant Barfield tweeted out like the top 20 guys playing out of the slot in the preseason. He played over 60% of his snaps in the slot, which is kind of intriguing with Juju's talents, his breakaway speed and catch and run. So Juju at 59 can be in play for you. The tight end situation between Vance McDonald's and Jesse James is up in the air because they don't know who's healthy right now. Whichever one's healthy is in play because Cleveland struggles against the tight end. So keep an eye on that one. Obviously, if you're stacking, you look at Big Ben. Cleveland side of thing, though, I really like Carlos Hyde in this matchup because he can run and he can catch out of the backfield. He's going to be their workhorse right now at $4,500. I think he's another one you can get super low owned because everyone's going to be on James Conner and company. So if you're game stacking this, I think Hyde could be really, really interesting. Jarvis Landry's okay at 55, but the guy in the passing game that I like, we talked about him last week, is David Njoku at $3,400 a tight end. I think that's a really good value at the tight end position. A guy that's an athletic specimen that should have a field day against a Pittsburgh team that does struggle at times against the tight end. So that's kind of where I'm looking. I hope a lot of people flock to Pittsburgh. Not that they can't play well, but I think Cleveland at home is going to be sneaky in their opening weekend. They've made a lot of changes to their overall roster. They might be a lot better than people think. It could just be a shootout or it could be a defensive battle. I don't know, but it should be a really close game. What do you have in this one, James?
Yeah, so I'm just going to say right off the bat, just lock in James Conner. just please, I said it on Twitter earlier that if you're not playing James Conner and Christian McCaffrey this week, I don't even think you're really trying. Like, we have seen what happens when a running back is on the Pittsburgh roster. It doesn't matter who it is. And people keep saying, well, how do you really expect James Conner to get Le'Veon Bell's workload? Yes, absolutely, yes. 32-year-old D'Angelo Williams comes out of retirement and plays for the Pittsburgh Steelers and puts up 35 fantasy points a game. Play James Conner. Like, just do it. Just play that. I like Carlos Hyde at 4,500. I actually think that something interesting in this game would be playing both running backs against each other.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
I don't really love Cleveland's O-line, but I don't think that Pittsburgh's D-line is very good either. And like you said, he's going to be their workhorse for now. We've seen Duke Johnson line up a lot in the slot in preseason. So I think that Carlos Hyde is kind of like the guy right now at running back, and he's cheap. So I think 4,500 and 4,500 there, you get 9K. And I think both of them could do really, really well in a contrarian kind of build. And Hyde's ownership is going to be in the sink now since James Conner came out. At wide receiver, you mentioned Smith-Schuster. I think that's fine. Antonio Brown, I think that's fine. Ben Roethlisberger is much worse on the road, and I think that Cleveland is going to be sneaky good this year at home. I agree with you. I think that fans are excited, and I think they're going to come out and watch him play. Greg Williams is a jackass, but I still think that they're going to be better on defense this year, and they're going to win some games. So I don't really like the idea of using too much offense here, but I do like the idea of using Connor and Hyde together. And if you needed to do it, the Browns' defense is only 2K. It's 2K.
I don't hate it at all.
Let's do this. If you need the money, if you could go I think you can fit every single elite wide receiver on this slate if you use James Conner, Carlos Hyde, the Browns defense, and Jack Doyle. I think you can fit every single other elite player at wide receiver. So I don't know. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think their defense is sneaky this week. If you really want to just say screw it and punt, I think it'd be really interesting. One name I want to mention just because I've seen it everywhere just so everybody knows, Jalen Samuels is a backup. He can play fullback, tight end, and running back. For $3,000, I'm not playing him. I'm just going to put it to you right now. I'm not playing him. People have been asking already. No, just don't get that cute this week. You don't need to. Let's go Kansas City at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers 3-point home favorites. Totals 47.5. This one could be a lot of fun. This has one of my sub 3K Ds in it. James, what are you liking in this matchup?
Always love Phillip Rivers, man. I will always love the Chargers passing game. I think Phillip Rivers is annually underrated. He's been incredible for so many years, and he passes for 400 yards more than I think any other quarterback does in the league. I have to go double check that, but it seems like he does. He always has a really, really high ceiling, and we can just team him up with Keenan Allen, who's only $7,500 this week against a Kansas City defense that should be much worse than it was last year. We saw them get torn up in the preseason, so I think that'll correlate, or I think that will carry over into the regular season. So I really, really like Chargers stack this week. Playing at home in LA, you can go Rivers, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams. You can go Rivers, Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen. You can do a lot of different things with that, and I think that's going to be a low-owned way to go as people focus so much on the other actual value pieces. I think the Chargers are really, really interesting. At tight end, Travis Kelce at 6,400 against Chargers team that has lost most of their good secondary is interesting, but I don't think that I can trust Mahomes yet. I'm not going to have any Kansas City in my first week because I'm not sure how good he's actually going to be. He looks really, really good. I just want to see a little bit of proof first, and this first game is a good test. With that being said, I like the Chargers defense against Kansas City because I don't trust Mahomes yet, and they can get pressure like no one's business. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I like the entire Chargers side of things, and I'm going to stay away from Kansas City.
Yeah, I love the Chargers as well. It's a team we were on quite a bit last year, especially towards the end. I think Rivers at 64 is very, very good value on this slate. Keenan Allen at 75, definitely. Gordon at 68, I do like a bit. We could do, like you said, you could do the Rivers Allen stack. You could do the Rivers Gordon. We talked about the quarterback running back stacks, try to get all the touchdowns. You could do Gordon and the San Diego defense. I love the defense at $2,800. Gets you a little bit of that because the thing with Mahomes, he might be great, but he's also going to turn the ball over because he's going to let it go all crazy from time to time. So he could have that 3-touchdown, 300-yard game, but he might turn it over twice. There's going to be some definite chances for a defense to score in a sub 3K defense. I like a lot. If you want to go to the Kansas City side, it's like you said, I like these guys. They're in good spots, but at the same time, I got to see it first. So give me the Chargers defense all day long in this one. Let's go to Mile High, Seattle at Denver. This is a game you circled last week, and I think it's definitely one to be on this week. Denver minus 3-point home favorite. Total's only around 43, so a low total might keep people off of it. You said it last week. Case Keenum at 51 is a really good play against a very, very depleted. Now, sure, Earl Thomas came back today, but he's not happy at all. I don't care. I'm curious to see how much he actually wants to be out there. He's pissed. So Case Keenum at 51, very interesting. Royce Freeman is starting back at 45. I still think Booker is going to take a lot of that, so watch out. But you can get Demaryius Thomas at 57 and Emmanuel Sanders at 5K. Two receivers for 10-7 that should have huge roles in this. If you have to pick one, pick Sanders, in my opinion, but both in really, really good spots here with Case Keenum at 51. I think it's a great stack. On the other side of things, Wilson's always interesting at 62 because he's going to run around and make things happen. But I'm a little worried about this team. You could look at Baldwin at 62 or Lockett at 43. It's just ugly. I think actually the Denver defense could be sneaky in this one too. But for the main part, it's Keenum and the receivers for me if I'm playing them at all. And I think it's a pretty solid stack this week. What are you liking in this one?
So I've been thinking about it, and I still really, really love the Broncos. Like, all of them are too cheap for their median projections, right? Like, even if you don't think that Keenum is that good, we know that he works really well with two prominent wide receivers. He's coming from the Minnesota offense where he had Thielen and Diggs, and moving over to a Denver Broncos offense where he has Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. So he has kind of that same idea, that same archetype of offense. And the one that we want, right, is the one out of the slot. We want Sanders because that's the majority of where he was throwing to last year. So I like all of them. I also really like Tyler Lockett to bring it back because Baldwin with his knee issue going up against Chris Harris Jr. Chris Harris Jr. is the only piece of that Broncos no-fly zone that still remains. And he's the only really good piece of that Broncos secondary that is left. So Tyler Lockett going up against a less vaunting, a less scary defense with no Wade Phillips, I think is really, really sneaky. I don't think anybody's going to be on him. He's $4,300. And it gets you away from a little bit of that wide receiver chalk for the Jaguars too. So I really I don't think this game goes off the rails. I think that the Broncos probably win 28-17 or something like that. But I could see Tyler Lockett getting 100 yards and a touchdown, just beating someone on a deep route and catching a couple balls elsewise, while Doug Baldwin has to deal with an ailing knee and a really, really good slot corner. I really like Tyler Lockett more than I think about it. But, of course, I still love the Broncos offense. They're all just too cheap, and I think that the Seattle defense will be bad. So I agree.
Yep, I like it. The Lockett call should be very, very good. Nice cheapie that will go so overlooked. Let's go to Carolina, Dallas at the Carolina Panthers. Panthers 3-point home favorites, totals 43. What do you got on your boys?
I got Christian McCaffrey, man. And I wanted to fade him so bad at the starting of the preseason. I wanted to fade him so bad, but then DraftKings priced him at $6,400. Yeah, and what do you want me to do with that price?
Straight to the veins.
I just don't get it. We've got somebody who's going to touch the ball 20-plus times, guaranteed. I mean, he's going to run the ball 15 times, and he's going to get those checkdowns, and they designed these little, wheel routes and these corner routes and the linebackers because they can't cover him. He's such an offensive weapon, and I just – at $6,400, I can't pass that up. I wanted to, but for the assumed production and the touch floor, it's just so good. I can't pass it up. And they're playing at home. And people keep telling me, well, what about Sean Lee? What about Sean Lee, dude? You think Sean Lee is going to keep up with Christian McCaffrey all over the field? He's not. I don't care. Christian McCaffrey's so good, and I love the Panthers, and I don't care. So with all of that being said, I don't really want to attack this Dallas defense too much. I do think that they're probably better than they were last year with Sean Lee back. He is a general out there. I mean, he does make the defense better. I still love Cam Newton. 6,900 is expensive, but like we have money to burn this week, so I don't hate it. I think that you could go. I think you could go Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey and probably capture the entire offense.
Love it.
And I don't hate that at all. If you're just going to kind of try to go with a very spread out team with like Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, one of the Broncos, and then Gronk, like something like that. I like that build style a lot this week because I think there's just so many good spots that it's really hard for me to focus on one game stack. Yeah. And then on the Dallas side, Ezekiel Elliott should eat, but I don't think there's really much of a reason to go there, I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Dallas?
I don't want much I need to see Dallas. I'm really skeptical on this offense as a whole. Yes, Zeke should eat. He should be great. I don't think I want to pay that on a week like this. But if you do, that'll definitely differentiate yourself. I respect the Carolina defense, especially at home at $3,200. I think if you want to do a McCaffrey Carolina defense stack, I could definitely get behind that. I think Dak is going to be interesting. I saw a bunch of stuff come out about how great he was. I think it was Grant Barfield again. Great stuff on him. If you want to go to receiver with Dallas, the one I'm looking at is Cole Beasley because Dak's going to need to get it out quickly with that messed up offensive line, that injured offensive line. So Beasley at 36 out of the slot is going to get targeted early and often. I'm not think Wes Welker, but not quite as talented. But that kind of workload could come into play in a game like this. If Zeke can't get running or getting the dump offs, Beasley's going to have a big game. But that's kind of where I look at Dallas. I'm not going to have much to do with it unless you want to kind of get weird. I love either McCaffrey in the Carolina defense, but even more so Newton and McCaffrey together. Absolutely love it. I think that's a great 1-2 punch and can do some serious damage this week and will capture all the offense, like you said. I think it's a really good spot. Let's go Washington at the Arizona Cardinals. It's a pick 'em. Total is 44. This is quite the interesting game here. Real quick, David Johnson at $8,800 I think is interesting. I know it's pricey. I know we have tons of value. No one is going to own him. Alvin Kamara at $8,500. No one's going to own David Johnson. People are going to remember he came off an injury. It wasn't to his legs or anything. He's going to be just fine. I think it's a great spot for him. The Washington defense, you could run on it all day last year. Might be a little better this year. They didn't make a ton of improvements, though. I think David Johnson at 88 is outstanding. If you want to get different, like Larry Fitz at 66. Washington also struggled tremendously against the tight end. Ricky Seals-Jones at 3K. I'm not necessarily going there. I think where I want to go in this game is DJ at 88 and then Arizona defense at 25. I absolutely love this Arizona defense in this matchup. Even if you just play them as a one-off and just get away from the game, it's fine. I think DJ and the Arizona defense is in play. On the other side, if you want to go to Chris Thompson, hope for some dump-off passes, you can. Jamison Crowder's 5K in a PPR, but I'm kind of staying away from the Washington side. DJ, Arizona defense. You have anything on this game?
Just DJ for me. I really, really like him at 8,800, and I want to say that he's going to be owned. It's hard for me to take a guess at what his ownership will be because Alvin Kamara should be super owned. James Conner should be super owned. Christian McCaffrey should be very owned, but I don't know, man. Like, I don't know where David Johnson's going to end up, but if he's going to be less than 15%, like, just give me all of it. I'll find a way to make it work. I think that 3 running backs is the right way to build this week. I think that James Conner, David Johnson, Christian McCaffrey just gives you so much for your money and so many touches. And we know that Arizona's answer to anything is just more David Johnson.
Yep, so, exactly.
Yeah, I really, really like David Johnson. And I think that 3 running backs, you go David Johnson, you go James Conner, and you just kind of figure out who you want your third to be, whether it's Christian McCaffrey or Leonard Fournette or Carlos Hyde or something like that, you know. But I think that David Johnson, especially if he's going to be low owned, is the right move this week. I've also heard a lot of chatter about Larry Fitzgerald going into his 15th season. I don't know, man. Like, I don't want to go there because for $6,600, like, there's other places that I'd rather go, I guess. But I get it. I'm not going to go there, but I get it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's a little pricey this week. In years past, we didn't have to pay that premium for him. But I guess the argument is Sam Bradford. He doesn't go deep downfield, so you got your safety valve called Larry Fitzgerald. That's kind of how it works. Let's go to Sunday Night Football, battling the NFC North. Chicago Bears at the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay 7.5-point home favorites. Totals 47.5. What are you looking at in this one?
Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, and that's pretty much it. I'm not ready to use Chicago Bears offense. I have no idea what is going to go on there, like, at all. I know that the Packers defense is not good, but it should be a little bit better than it was last year. And I don't know who is going to be the guy. I mean, it should feasibly be Allen Robinson, but we've seen the Bears kind of act weird before and spread things out. We don't know how good that offense is going to be with, like, the quarterback concerns. And I don't know. I know there's a lot about, like, Matt Nagy being the guy, and, like, there's a lot of love about Zach Ertz or Zach Ertz, right? Over to the Bears.
Trey Burton. Sorry.
I knew it was one of them. But I don't know. I don't know if I can trust the Bears yet. I'd rather just go with the safety of Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Just call it a day in this one.
Yeah, A-Rod and Adams, that's the easy way and that's probably the best way to go about it. If you have to get different on, say, the Sunday, Monday slate or something, you can look at Geronimo Allison if you want to believe everything Aaron Rodgers had to say this preseason and how much he liked him. But the way I would get different, if we have 2 Monday games, you have a 3-game primetime slate. But if you want to get different, that's when you do go to the Bears and you look like an Allen Robinson or a Trey Burton. But I agree. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out because we still have to trust Mitchell Trubisky. And that's the wild card. Because Burton's talented, Jordan Howard's talented, Allen Robinson's talented. But the guy throwing the ball, is he talented, is the million-dollar question. And we'll have to wait and see. But could be very, very interesting. Let's go to game 1 on Monday night. You got the New York Jets at the Detroit Lions. Lions 6.5-point home favorites in this matchup. Totals 45. This just screams to me all the Matt Stafford. Get your Golden Tate. Get your Marvin Jones. If you want to do a 3-man stack, knock it out. The Detroit D at 34 is in play for me because I don't trust Sam Darnold starting his first career game on Monday night. I know it's Detroit. He could have worse environments to play in. I don't trust him at all. So I love Stafford. I love his top 2 receivers. I like the defense. If you need to get a little bit of the Jets offense, Robbie Anderson out of the slot. He ran 70% of his preseason snaps out of the slot. He could be an interesting little safety valve there for Darnold. But it's pretty much Stafford and Jones and Tate for me. What about you?
Yeah, I really like Sam Darnold. I think that he's going to be a really good quarterback in this league. I'm with you. I don't have any reason to use him in this spot, but I do think that he'll be good, and I'm not sure that the Lions defense is really something to be worried about, even though their front seven should be improved. They were beat up with some of their key pieces last year. They should have those back. So I don't really have any interest in the Jets offense for this week. I will in future weeks because I think that Darnold will be good. And I like Robbie Anderson and I like Quincy Enunwa, and I like that offense. Yeah. I think it'll be better than people assume, but I don't have any reason to use him this week. I always love Matthew Stafford. I think he's fantastic. I think he's pretty generally underrated. But I do want to wait and see which one becomes wide receiver 1. You remember last year when everybody thought it was Golden Tate and then it switched over to Marvin Jones. We were able to exploit that for a couple weeks. I don't know how they're going to act this year. My gut tells me that I want Marvin Jones, but we do know that Golden Tate has that rapport. So this is kind of a wait-and-see game for me with a couple of the other games on this slate. I do like Marvin Jones. I like Matthew Stafford, but I wouldn't go crazy on this one.
Yeah, I feel it there, and I agree. Kind of pay attention to who's the 1, who the 2 or 3 receiver is, as we saw that play out quite a bit last year. Let's go to the last Monday night game, Rams at the Raiders. Raiders 4-point home dogs. Total is 49.5. What are you liking in this one?
I want to hear your thoughts first, and then I'll pick back.
All right. I think the Raiders' defense is going to be bad. Really bad. Maybe they made some changes. I don't believe it. Losing Khalil Mack, and it was already a bad defense to begin with. I don't think it's going to be good at all. I think Todd Gurley is a great play, but $9,300 could be pushing the envelope there. But I think he's going to have a good one. But if you want to be different, maybe you go Goff and you hit the receivers and Brandon Cooks and Robert Woods. I think Cooks is going to have a much better year than people thought. They paid him for a reason, is what I think. And some people don't want to buy into that, but I think Cooks could be really, really good there. And if you just want to go with their defense, I'm okay there because that Rams defense is going to be fierce. But I think a Goff and the receiving core, or Goff and Gurley, could be really, really nice. if you need to look at the Oakland side of things, Marshawn Lynch will still carry the rock 15 plus times a game, which has some value at $5,100. That's only if you're playing primetime, though, because there's so much more value on the full slate if you need to go there. Amari Cooper's interesting, not $7,100 interesting. The value I would take is Seth Roberts at 31 out of the slot for Oakland. A lot of good reports, like The Athletic has wrote some good articles on Seth Roberts this preseason. Cooper was just talking about him the other day. So if you want to punt at $3,100, you can go there. I'm all Rams, and that just might be chalk. It might be crazy, but I do not like what I see in Oakland right now.
Yeah, I think I generally agree with you. I might be higher on Cooks than the field.
Yeah, I love Cooks.
So the way that I envision this now, they got Cooks so that they would have somebody who could actually do damage that Sammy Watkins was faking last year. Because they would always just send Sammy Watkins on that go route to try to clear underneath. And that was fine. It did its job, but they never really had somebody who could hit that go route. And now with Cooks, like, defenses have to honor that even more, and he's going to get behind defenses. So as much as Gurley is the focal point, I really do like Goff to Cooks. If you're trying to hit like lightning in a bottle, I think that could be something that's really, really dangerous for them this year. Since they had Sammy Watkins, who's slow as shit and can't catch, in that position last year, I think Cooks can do a lot of damage. His defense kind of underestimate that position now, but Cooks will be there instead of Watkins. So I really, really like Cooks. I like the Rams overall, of course, but on the other side, the Raiders are going to suck this year. Like, they're going to suck on defense. They're going to suck on offense. They're going to suck with their personnel. Their coaching is terrible. Like, that I don't know how they went from being like this really promising group to just being in the tank again. And that's incredible to me. But I think they're going to be really bad this year, and I don't have any interest in Amari Cooper. I don't have any interest in Marshawn Lynch. I don't have any interest in David Carr until Gruden shows me that his game plan is not going to be from the 50s. I don't want anything to do with that team.
Yep, I completely agree. Well, that'll wrap up all 16 games of action. Just a real quick recap for everybody. For the most part, paying up at quarterback. We got like Rivers at 64 and Keenum at 51 are kind of the low bars there, which is rare for us. We usually like to go cheaper at quarterback. At the running back position, James, we know it's run CMC, and then Connor are the main guys, and there's a few more below 4K or 4,500 and below we talked about. Receivers, we hit most of the value there. Tight end, we love Gronk. Question for you, though, which is your top defense under 3K?
I think it's the Chargers for me, honestly.
I like that.
I just love Joey Bosa and that game plan so much, and I don't trust Mahomes yet. So I really like the Chargers. If not the Chargers, it's the Patriots.
I like it a lot. Any other parting thoughts for the listeners as the weeks go on and things kind of mellow out? We figure out how these teams are going to play a little more. We'll have a lot more kind of back and forth at the end. But any final thoughts this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's week one. I think that generally week one is a really good opportunity to kind of go against the grain and go against the public. But there's just such good spots and such good touch equity going on in this first week for running backs that I think your differentiation has to come in the wide receiver group. And that's generally where I'd like to be different anyway, but more so this week. So I think you got to find those kind of weird wide receiver plays that have a lot of upside and just kind of lock in those 3 or 4 running backs that are just going to touch the ball a million times and just kind of eat a little bit of chalk at running back position. But I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to learn what these teams are going to do so that we can have a little bit more specifics on it. And just overall excited for football to be back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. And the one last thing, echoing everything you just said, I think there's a lot to be said there, is when you guys are looking at your contests, there's the big ones and you want to get the big prize, and I get it all, but there's a ton of like 3 maxes and single entries and some other ones that'll help you build your bankroll. And it's a lot easier because there's the $3 $200,000 to the winner, and there's like 300,000 people in it, and there's a $3 with like 2,000 to the winner with 1,900 people. So it's kind of, you don't have to hit the nuts every time. Build your bankroll to hit the nuts later. Just something to think about moving forward, is you don't have to do it all in one week if you're not a big-time player. There's nothing wrong with that. With that being said, you can find James on Twitter at Pater_DFS. I am at BDentric, and the podcast is at 2PointCon, PTCONV. Go check us out. It's going to be a fun season, and hit us up with any questions you have. We'll be in and out throughout all the way to lock and whatever else you have. Just let us know. And for future episodes, let us know. But it was a pleasure, James. We'll do it again next week. This
All right.
was.
I'll talk to you next week.
Heck yeah. This is a 2-point conversion NFL DFS podcast, week 1 DraftKings preview. Catch you guys next time.